Hello, my name is Bagwadi. I'm here together with my colleague Razvan Ulea, and today we will cover AI APIs. Just a sec. I will share my presentation. So together today we will cover an introduction to artificial intelligence, an introduction to APIs and how they work together. We will have some demos of them as well and a case study. First of all, let's discuss a bit about what is AI. What exactly is AI? I show here artificial intelligence is a field of computer science dedicated to building machines and systems capable of performing tasks that typically require human intelligence. These tasks can include learning, reasoning, or even self-correction. AI is a vast field with several branches and techniques that make it possible. You can see here that some of the core examples include technologies we encounter in our everyday lives, such as voice assistants, as Siri you have on the phone, image recognition, or autonomous vehicle like Tesla that you see on the road. But how this system works? They rely on methods like machine learning, deep learning, or neural networks to process and analyze data. You also have some diversity here, like you have some branches that show the AI and how it can be diverse. These include natural language processing, robotics, or computer vision. These are fields inside of AI that are very deep and well researched. Each of these branches solves specific challenges in making machines smarter and more capable. For instance, computer vision enables machines to see and interpret things. It is a core technology inside autonomous vehicles like Tesla, while natural language processing allows them to understand and generate human language, such as a chatbot. With this slide, I want to provide a bird's view of what AI is and how it fits into our world. Over the course of this workshop, we'll dive deeper into these elements, explore the practical application, and discover how APIs make it easier to harness the power of AI in real-world application. Our core concept when working with AI is understanding tokens, because they are the most basic unit of interpretation. But good question would be, what is token? Think of a token as an alphabet of AI. You have letters in an alphabet, but tokens are the building blocks of text and what AI understands. When AI encounters text, like you type on ChatGPT, it doesn't just read words as we do. It breaks the text into tokens, which can be parts of words or even punctuation marks. For example, you take the word unfortunately. AI might break this down to smart pitches such as unfortunately, and this allows the system to analyze languages more efficiently and naturally, and understanding the meaning in a more flexible and natural way. Tokens play a crucial role in tasks like language generation and text analysis. This helps AI understand the context and the relationship between words. For example, when you type a question to a chatbot, as I said earlier, or search engine like Perplexity, the system uses tokens to break our query into multiple pieces so it can understand and respond intelligently. And as I said earlier, you can have parts of words, you can have the full words, or also the special characters that explain the topic and the nature of the question. Now that we know what tokens are, let's explore how tokenization works. This is a process of breaking down text into smart, meaningful units, tokens. When you send text into an AI, the first thing it does in the backend is chop the sentence into these smaller tokens. Like you have puzzle pieces, you have the whole puzzle, and you fit the whole image into puzzle pieces. Each token holds some meaning for this AI because some of the languages can have different number of topics. Language like English often more have compact and require fewer tokens. You have languages like Japanese or Chinese that have icons instead of text that might require more tokens for the same idea because they convey rich information in such smaller characters. Why tokens are important? Because you paid for them in a short way. Tokens are the currency of all the systems of artificial intelligence that determine the cost and capability of a system. The more token you use, the more it costs to run the AI and the longer it takes you to process the input. Tokens are also what limits how much text the AI can handle at a certain given time. If you ever work with it, you have a context window of so many tokens that you can work with it. Think of an AI like a container and how many pieces of furniture you can put there. This is very important because you also have the precision part and the speed that it affects how many tokens can be used for a certain model. And for you, it's also the payment part. In practice, as I said earlier, we will have some examples. Like hi there might only use 2 or 3 tokens. You have hi there and no exclamation mark. On the other hand, like a simple sentence like the quick brown fox jumps would also use around 6 or 7 tokens. It really depends on the model. If you are working with a long full page of text, like a PDF or something, or email, you can easily reach 500 to 800 tokens because there is so much content that needs to be processed. This is because every word, punctuation mark, and even spaces, very important, are counted for tokens. When you are working with code, you generate code on ChatGPT or Claude or anything else, DeepSeek in particular. Code in particular tends to consume more tokens than plain text because each symbol that you have in code, think of PHP and $signs, indentation, even structural elements like brackets or columns, count as individual tokens. So it's very important that when you're generating text via an API, you know that you will have to use more tokens and more money as well. Because you are a developer using AI to analyze or generate code, you need to be very strategic with token usage. The goal when working with AI system is to find the right balance, giving the AI enough context to understand your input while staying in the practical limits. When you're building chatbots, you may use short and direct prompts. When you're summarizing long documents, you can condense the input, maintaining the key information. And in coding, you might need to focus on specific code assignments. This AI can be categorized in many ways, but I would like to present you today, the narrow AI and general AI. AI is very common in this narrow AI part because it's the most common form of artificial intelligence in use today. Narrow AI, also known as weak AI in some parts, is designed to perform a specific task with intelligence. Unlike general AI, which will be on the next slide, narrow AI operates with a limited context and is not self-aware, so it doesn't have many tokens processed. Narrow AI is highly specialized and excels in that performing the task is programmed for. However, it's not capable of going beyond its designated functions. It operates under more constrained and controlled settings than general AI, and focusing on solving a single problem or a specific set of relating problems. Let's take a closer look at some prominent example of narrow AI. You have chatbots like the ominous ChatGPT. They handle inquiries, provide quick responses, and even learn from the past interaction to improve their answers. ChatGPT is excellent at understanding text input and generating human-like responses, let's just say, making them invaluable for businesses looking to enhance like customer support, let's just say. You have also recommendation systems, or Netflix and Amazon are quite popular, or Spotify as well. You have this system that analyzes user behavior and preferences to make your playlist or suggest you a new book to read or new show to watch. And also you have autonomous vehicles like Tesla Autopilot, which navigates and avoids obstacles on the road. The key thing to take from the last slide is narrow AI is not trying to replicate human intelligence fully, and instead is focused on doing a certain task very well. But when you are discussing general AI or AGI, a very popular term nowadays, is viewed as the holy grail of artificial intelligence. General AI represents a level of intelligence that is capable of understanding and learning any intellectual task that a human being can. so it might be replacing humans in the future. It's very versatile and adaptable across a wide range of fields and contexts. So the main thing about general AI is that it's not restricted to predefined tasks. It can apply its own intelligence, reason, and capabilities to plan, to solve problems, to think abstractly. You might also see some of the recent developments for OpenAI that you have reasoning models that try to mimic this stuff. In the future, you might have robot scientists that can perform independent science research using capabilities of general AI. You can have fully autonomous agents. Agent is a quite popular term for 2025 that will lead the creation of jobs. You can have highly complex decision tasks that they can be done. You can have running a company with an agent. You can have your personal assistant as an agent. Also, you can have a personal assistant as a robot, because robots are getting very, very good nowadays. You can have let's just say picture robots that has like a full-time aides, like your nanny or like someone in the house. And they will help with every aspect of daily life, from managing schedules to finances to whatever. So the key thing is that AGI is still theoretical at this stage. It's potentially staggering, yes. It could transform the way we live, work, and interact with technology. But today, achieving AGI requires solving complex challenges, creating machines, big infrastructure, and this is not feasible right now. As we move forward in this workshop, we'll focus primarily on narrow AI and its practical applications, since this AGI, as I said earlier, is still a long-term vision. But understanding AGI helps us appreciate the broader goals and aspiration driving the field of artificial intelligence. So, as you might know, AI is quite in every industry nowadays because there is such a popular word. There are some already industry that implemented AI. You have supply chain management that optimize logistics, from warehouse management to the delivering routing and inventory control. You might have transportation that powers self-driving cars, as Tesla said earlier. You can have education, like imagine Moodle with AI, that is personalizing learning experience for students. You can have automatically adjusting the difficulty of tasks. In healthcare is very used nowadays, and you will have a case study later how it is implemented in healthcare. Also in finance, it's very good for fraud detection, for credit scoring, for customer service automation. And in retail, you will have the new customer interaction with it. So now I will pass to my colleague Razvan.
Okay, thank you, Vlad. Hello, everyone. Could you give a React thumbs up if you can hear me well?
I can hear you well.
Okay, great. So I'm Razvan. I will take over the next part of this presentation, and let's talk about APIs. So we'll start with the question, what is an API? And we will see a diagram soon. Basically, I have split the explanation in three parts. A general knowledge that you should have about API is that it's essentially a set of rules, of protocols that enables different software applications to communicate with one another. It's all about allowing one piece of software to interact with another smoothly and efficiently. But why do we need this kind of APIs? The purpose is to enable communication between software application. It basically makes data exchange possible, like some kind of communication channel. It allows different systems to work together. For example, you have multiple projects. You have front end and back end. Let's say the front end is React and you have back end in Spring Boot. You can make an API in Spring Boot that will allow you to transfer the data from the database to the front end through this API. And also it facilitates integration of third-party services. For example, you don't have to make the algorithm of paying with the credit card by yourself. You can just use an API so that it automatically does it for you. Okay, let's see how it works. Secondly, so the client-server communication. Okay, we describe how requests travel from a client to a server and back. That's how the communication is possible. Then we have authentication and authorization, which protects your API endpoint so that it's not accessible to everybody. You can protect it with either a username and a password or with tokens, which are way more secure than a username and a password. Then you have data formats that make sure that the data is being exchanged. It follows a structure that both ends understand. And then we have error handling. Okay, we have error handling, which involves managing and responding to any issues that arise during communication. For example, if you are not authorized to make that API call, the response should be a 401 unauthorized. Or if there is a server error, you'll get a 500 response. Then we'll have some examples of these APIs. Are payment APIs, as I said earlier. You don't need to make the whole algorithm by yourself. Social media, for example, you want to implement some Instagram videos in your app or something like that, and it will provide it for you. But the key components of an API. So we'll have endpoints, which is basically the link you're trying to access, but we'll dive more deeper into that later so you can also see the part. Then we have the parameters, which is basically what you ask from the API, what interests you and what it should search by. Then you have the request methods. Usually it's a get, create, update, or delete. And then you have the response. The response is what the API returns, which is the data. Okay, now let's see in action how the API works in the video. So that's our API. It makes eye contact with the server. The server asks the API what it needs. The API asks the other apps what they need. And it forwards that data to the server, and the server brings the data to all the apps necessary. Okay, but let's see also a diagram that will describe this process. So as I said, we have the client in the left. Okay, this can be web applications, they can be mobile application, or some backend application that you need. Then you make a request, which is called payload. So you make a request to an endpoint, to a link, with the methods that I have described, which is a get, post, put, patch, or delete. Then you send the request parameters, as I said earlier. The request body is also something that you specify. If you want, for example, it's mostly used to update something, and also sometimes to get, but it's more used on update. And the request headers is usually where you put the authorization, where you put the token, for example, for you to access that API. And then you make the request to the server, and it arrives on the server, which then sends a response of type JSON or XML to which the client needs. Okay, then we have multiple types of APIs. Let's first talk about public and private. The public APIs are accessible to developers outside the organization. So for example, you can make an API and publish it somewhere, and someone else can use that because it is not protected by something. It's not protected by a token or by a password. It basically encourages other people to use it because if it's free, other developers, of course, will use that your API, and they can update it or can make it even better. And it can help others learn through tutorials or tools that are created by the developers using your API. And some examples are Twitter or Google Maps, for example, when you have a map on your site, on your website, or on your app, you can use the Google Maps API to showcase that. And the private APIs are usually restricted to internal use within the organization, which works sometimes or most of the time with sensitive data, and that should not be accessed to everyone. You don't want to know the credit cards of details of some users, for example, if you're working in a bank, and that ensures the sensitive data is protected, those private APIs. And okay, we can go to the next slide. The most used types of APIs are SOAP, RESTful, and GraphQL. Let's go first over SOAP, Simple Object Access Protocol. It's a standardized protocol that primarily uses XML language for the information. We can see how an XML looks, how an XML request looks right here. It's well suited for complex operations and transactions because it's kind of verbose, and it's often used in enterprise environments where strict contracts and robust messaging are required. And let's see a response. This is a request, for example, and that will be the response. Basically, here we are asking is if an ISBN is valid. And in the first picture, we are sending the request, and the second picture sends us back the response with true, is valid, true. Exactly. Thank you, Vlad. Okay, now the RESTful APIs is from, it's a shortage from representational state transfer. It's more of an architectural style than a strict protocol because it relies on standard HTTP methods like get, post, put, and delete, like the basic CRUD operations, alongside resource-based URLs. You use URLs to access this API, this REST API. Okay, and we can also see a picture. Okay, this is a diagram. So the client makes an HTTP request to a URL on the server, and the server responds with a JSON body, and it sends back to the client. And if it's often used in IoT, web services, and mobile applications. Now, the GraphQL, this is an example of GraphQL, which also is applied on a URL, on an endpoint, but as different to the HTTP RESTful endpoints, here you only have one, and you decide which data you need. So you just check those boxes and you decide which data you need from those servers. And the GraphQL is developed by Facebook. It's a query language for APIs, and it's often used in complex and interconnected data structures, but it's also easily used by many front-end developers that only need some particular data and just take what data they need through a checkbox. Okay, and this is the response of such a query GraphQL request. Okay, next. But let's first not make any confusion between endpoint and API. Endpoint is a component of an API. Endpoint belongs in the API. It will not work. The API would not work without an endpoint, while the API is in general a set of rules that allow these two applications to share resources. So endpoints and APIs are different. We will see now an example. Okay, so this app is called Postman. You can simply make some requests, REST or either GraphQL request to some servers. So first we have the method, which is in our case it's a get. We want to retrieve something. Then with ping we have the server. In our case it's localhost because I tried this locally, but usually it's a URL with HTTPS from secure. Then we have the endpoint. The endpoint is the red part. It's the URL that we are using on our server. And with green is the parameter. It's what we are searching by. Then the authorization, we can select authorization like basic authorization, which is username and password. We can also select GWT token or OAuth, which are token-based authorization and authentication, which, as I said earlier, are more secured. Then we get the response status. In our case, it was 200. It was okay. It means that the server received our data, our request, and can send our data without any issues, without any trouble. If we had any trouble, then that response status would be red, and it would indicate an error with the basic HTML response codes, like 500 or 400. And with yellow, we have the response body. The appointment ID parameter that I search with, it's 1. And it's a field in my SQL database from which I searched by. And the appointment ID with value 1 has returned me this data, this JSON response body. Okay, we can go. And this is an example of how we are going to use our AI API. In our case, as we can see, we are using Axios, which is a library which allows us to make HTTP requests to a web server. Then we are specifying the endpoint with the server that we are trying to get, and we will show you how you can get those endpoints, because those are some specific endpoints. You can't just make them up. You have to use the endpoints provided by the company or the enterprise that is providing the API. We are going to specify the model, and we're going to dive deeper into that part a bit later. But what you should see is the headers. The headers, we specify the authorization. So because OpenAI APIs are behind the paywall, you don't use them, you can't use them for free. We need an authorization. And that bearer is standard way of specifying that I am sending this token, the token SK proj, etc. It's a private token that OpenAI provides us, and we just send it in our request. Okay. Now I'll give it back to Vlad to explain some bit about AI services evolution.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So taking it back, this is a new part since AI is so rapidly evolving. Our way of working with the AI APIs has changed since the previous 9 months where we did the last workshop. So let's take a moment to look at how AI services used to work 9 months ago, which is crazy to say it's all the traditional way. You have a toolbox where each tool can only do one specific job. That was the Google Cloud Services platform, GCP, as I said earlier, from GCP to modern generative AI. So as I said earlier, that's essentially how traditional AI services operated. If you need to analyze images, you have to use a Vision API, which is a API for analyzing images. For speech recognition, a completely different speech API. If you wanted to translate languages, you have to set up your own translation API. So the key thing is that each task required its own specialized tool. This is fragmented, and this fragmented approach brought several changes, as I highlighted here. You have multiple services. In a traditional model, you had to manage several services for each type of task. You need to go to the platform to log in to enable each service, to be sure that it no longer overflows or will bill you more than it requires. You need to set up each API and get the keys for each API indeed. This has not only increased complexity, but also made it harder to create seamless solutions that combine multiple capabilities, like, as I said, vision, speech, or language, and so on and so forth. And also you have complex setup because each service came up with its own setup requirement. You need different keys, as I said earlier, individual permission for each service that can do or not do with your data, and separate configurations. And for early junior developer, this could be overwhelming, especially if they want to integrate multiple services into a single application. And also, obviously, it will slow you down development, and it will add you significant overhead. And also from a resource standpoint, most of the services required in the past to have a credit card linked to your account. So if you ever use it more than you have the 50 year, it will automatically bill you. So, and also each service requires separate billing, which means you have to juggle multiple accounts if you want the multiple free tiers. multiple quotas. You need to be sure, I cannot do this, so I put some parameters in the code to do not overrun it. Planning resources became complicated, and the app development became complicated because you need to forecast different usage from different services inside your application. And this also would likely mean that it would be difficult to scale without running into limitation or unexpected costs. And when you're using for the first time, it's so easily to cost you a lot of money without ever doing something. So this old way of managing AI services work is still in usage nowadays in multiple applications because refactoring takes a lot of time, but it isn't efficient or user-friendly. You have complexity, you have fragmentation, as I said earlier, and these are a barrier for multiple businesses and developers want to adopt AI. That is quite a big thing for 2025 to automate this. As we move forward, you will have a way where we'll simplify this process with more integrated, scalable, and cost-effective solution. This is very important to know because these challenges that traditional model helps us appreciate how far we come in AI making more accessible and powerful in 9 months. Nowadays, in 2025, you have a new way of working with AI because of the implementation of generative AI inside the APIs. So you have like a super smart assistant that can help you with everything. All the APIs came together in one large model. You have, instead of relying on multiple fragment services, as I said earlier, you will have one API that can handle images, text, code, videos, and so much more. All you need to do is describe what you want to play in English, which is the universal language. Is that what we call a prompt? And the AI figures out the rest. Let's break this new way of doing things into core advantages. So as I said earlier, you don't have many things to secure and set up. You will have some simple API magic because with modern generative AI, you will have just one API for everything. Whether it's analyzing an image, summarizing text, all tasks are handed to a simple prompt-based request. This eliminates the need of learning and managing multiple APIs, writing documentation, and making the process seamless. And this is a very good thing for junior developers because the use of natural language instruction means that you don't need deep technical expertise. You just describe your needs and the AI gets to work. So for the setup, you can say goodbye to complex configuration and time-consuming steps. You only need just one API key and you're good to go. And quick, efficient, and easy to get started. And for resource management, you have just a bill if you're using not free tier, a single service to monitor, flexible scaling. The beauty of this modern approach is flexibility and accessibility. You can build faster, iterate more efficiently, and focus on creativity and working on your project in this hackathon than managing infrastructure, which is great. The shift from old AI to the new AI isn't just about convenience, it's about unlocking the true potential for AI for everyone using it. The shift, as I said earlier, is very important because you don't need to visit special doctors. You have just one doctor. The focus has shifted from managing the complexity, as I said earlier, of different services to actually building innovative solutions to provide real value. And this is very important because it's just taken 9 months. This is very crazy in the scale of time. So now it's time for demo. You will have some demos implemented by me and Razvan using Gemini AI and OpenAI. Gemini AI is a service from Google. I will take over that part. OpenAI is very popular for its ChatGPT implementation. I will take and just present you some code in Flutter, and Razvan will present some code in React Native, with Razvan presenting first.
Yes. So let me just share my screen. Okay. Can you see? Is everything all right?
I guess yes.
Okay, great. So firstly, let's see how you build a React Native app easily and without many inconveniences. I have found this service called Expo. And this Expo, as it says, is an open source platform that lets you make universal native apps for Android, iOS, and the web by using JavaScript and React. So it's perfect for what we need. First, you're going to have to make an account. And after you make an account, you're going to be prompted here. Then I recommend that you go to the docs part. Anytime you are trying to build something new, try to first go to the documentation before searching on ChatGPT, because make sure you have an idea and kind of understand what happens there. Then we'll go to the introduction. Here it explains how we can make such a project, and I will demonstrate also how you can make such a project right now. So we click next, and to create our project, we just run this following command. So what we need, as you can see here, I have already did some examples to make sure that it works. So you need a folder in which you want to set up your app, and then you just copy this command and run it. You'll need Node.js for it to work. And when we hit enter, let's see what happens. Okay, so it says that it's creating an Expo project using the default template. If you want to switch templates, you can do that by using these commands, but we don't want to change our template. We will just provide our app name, which is, let's say, OpenAI API. Okay, you can name it however you want. It's your project. And here it will build our packages. It will install everything that it's needed for us to go further. So while we wait for it to download and to install, let's see how we can, let's go to the next step. So we will set up our environment. It asks us, what do we need? On what device are we developing? So we can either choose Android, iOS, emulator, or iOS simulator. I'm assuming most of you maybe use an Android emulator, as I saw other webinars are on this Android emulator. But right now we are going to do something new. We are going to do select our Android device. Okay, we can select whatever. It will ask us in the console if we are building for both of them or only for one. And here we can select the development build. I recommend you to use this Expo application services because it's really easy and it will help you develop and post your projects here on their app, and it's really easy to set up. If you don't want, however, to build with Expo application services, you can use this guide that will let you install for macOS or Windows or Linux. You will see the guide that you need. But for this webinar, we're going to use this service. Okay, so now we see that our project is ready. It has been built. And see what. Okay, it was built in here. This is our new project. And you can ignore this part. This is our project. Okay, and then we just hit the. Actually, for it to be clear, let me just do another. Let me just do another project. Okay. We're going through these steps again. Okay, so OpenAI API, because I don't want to confuse you. Okay, so now we see that the project has been generated here. Okay, it's a new folder and it's also installing again the packages. Okay, then we are going to run this command to install the Expo application services client. Then we will log in our terminal with our already created client. Then we will configure our project. We will see what we are going to use and how it's going to be configured. Then we are going to create a build. This step takes usually approximately 10 minutes. So we are not going to do it on the go. I will just show you what happens with the command, and then I will stop it because I already have a project available. So it's not, I don't want to waste your time. Okay, so we are going to install we're going to go into our OpenAPI. So cd OpenAPI folder. Now we are going to install the CLI. And let's wait a bit for it to install. Okay, it installed. Now we will log in to our Expo account. It will say that I am already logged in, but I also want to continue to show you this process. So I press Y, I press the Y on my keyboard, and then I provide the username. Then I will provide a password. And it will say that I am logged in. Good. Now let's configure our project. So it asks us, would you like to automatically create an ES project for you? And we hit enter or we press Y and it will make a project here. So here is our project. It asks us, which platform would you like to configure? We would say all, for example, to not only be on iOS or Android. And now we have configured our project. Now we need to build our project. This is the part that will take the most of time. So we copy this command and we build it. And it will say, do you want the CLI to install Expo Dev clients? Yes, we want to install because otherwise it will not work. Good. Now, if we go in our project, we will see after a bit of time when it starts building. Okay, we would like, it asks us again, what would you like your Android application ID to be? We can hit enter or name it however you want. The Android key store is like a private key that you will use for your app to upload it somewhere or for others to use it. And I just pressed enter. Yes, sure, generate a new Android key store. Okay. Now we will see that the building is queued because it's a free service and probably others use it as well. So we are in a queue. But as we can see now, it appeared on our project that we have created the Android build. Okay, so now we can enter this project and we can see that it actually is building. And this process, it takes 10 minutes, roughly, approximately. So we are not going to see how it works now. We are just going to open this project, which will, this is what you see when you first open with VS Code the project. We can delete this folder. Yes. Okay, so you have an app folder, you have assets, components, constant hook, etc. We can go in the app, and this is what you will see, the layout, the explore, the index, etc. This is our home screen. So let's first look. First, we have to start the server. Okay, so our next step is to use this command npx expo start. We will open a new terminal here. And we paste it expo start. And now you will see that a QR code is generated. So with this QR code, you can actually scan it. And if you are on the same Wi-Fi as me, you can see on your mobile app, you can download the app and actually use it. Also, when the build finishes of your app, it will prompt you to install the app. For example, if we go to a project that already exists and is already compiled, we will see that I have the option to install the app on my phone. And when I scan the QR code that is generated here after the development build, I can download my application actually. Good. So going back here, we see that the web is waiting on localhost 8081. I will show you on the web because I cannot connect my phone to the PC to show it to you directly. So we will go on the app, on the web. Okay, so we connect to this address. And we will see on the console everything that happens. Here are the logs, okay? So we see that when we entered the screen, the entry.js and the render.js were compiled and the status. Okay, so this is the first page that you see here. Here is the home screen. If you want to change, for example, the hello, welcome, we can hit save and it will change. because of hot reload, it will change automatically. So or step 1, try it. We can say we already tried it, and it will update here as we save the file. Okay, but we're not going to make use of this right now. We are going to build our own app. So we can actually delete everything here. Here will be the new empty file. And we will actually go and build it piece by piece. So let's first we need first the use state from React. Okay, this use state will allow us to. So we have data that changes over time. It will help us to manage our state, the state of the data within components. Okay, so GitHub Copilot helped me to complete the code. And we see this screen doesn't exist because I just saved the file. Okay, I hit Control S and it saved the file. Good. Now we are going to need Axios. Axios, as I said earlier, is a library which allows us to make HTTP requests. But it says an error, okay? And what that error could be is that Axios is declared, but its value is never used. No, it doesn't matter right now. But the error is cannot find module Axios or its corresponding type declarations. It means that we don't have it installed in our package. So we can go to our folder. We can open a new terminal, and in this terminal we simply say npx install Axios. Oh, yeah. npm install Axios. My bad. It's npm install Axios, and now our error has disappeared. Good. Now let's make our app function. Okay. Here is going to be our app function, which we need to export. So we say export to default app. This is for us to actually see it on the web. Good. Now we are going to set some constants. We are going to need a text, which will be our input, and the state for that text. Okay, and we're gonna make it be empty for now. Use state. Okay, then we are going to need a variable to store the response of our API call, and we're also going to make it to be an empty string. Then we are going to set the loading to tell the server if the API is waiting a response or not. Okay, let's build another function, which is, I call it handle generate, which is a synchronous function. Okay, and in this we will verify if the input is empty. So it will not allow us to just send empty inputs and waste our tokens and waste our money. So we're going to use the trim, and we're going to set the response to whatever. Please enter some text to generate. Good. After we handle this process, we return because we don't want the function to continue any longer. Okay, then first we are going to set the loading to true. Here we are going to say that, okay, now the API call starts, and now we are going to need to fetch some data. Okay, so we are going to wrap this into a try catch. So we will first make a constant that will be the result. Okay, the result of our endpoint call. So we are going to make it await. It's a promise, and we are using post. Why are we using post? Well, if you go in the OpenAI, if you search OpenAI on Google, and you go to the first part, to the first page, you can see if you go to API reference and you go to endpoints, you scroll here to endpoints, you will see all the endpoints that you can use. And as I said earlier, first we need to define the method. The method in our case is post. This is an example of create speech, but for chat, for example, the endpoint that we are going to use, by the way, here is where you take that endpoint. You can find it here under API reference and endpoint chat. and we are going to use this endpoint, and we know here that it's a post. So that's why we are using access post. Good. Then let's continue building our function. So we said that we are using this endpoint. Okay. And we are going to define what model we use. Okay. So in our case, we will use GPT-4. Then we will define an array of messages, which is what we send to the through our input. Okay. We first define a role. Let's say that the role is user. Okay. And the content of our message is text. It is the input that we set here. Okay. Good. And now that our array of messages exists, we need to also provide headers. So, okay. Headers, we're going to make content type application JSON, okay? And then authorization will be our, as I said, bearer, and we need to provide our token, our secret token. Our secret token, we can take it from settings. We can go to API keys, and you will not have anything here at start, but it will be prompted for you to create a new secret key. You can name it however you want. Like literally however you want. And then you select the project that you need, and then you hit create secret key. This is very important. This is the first time that you can see your key. After this time, you will not be able to access it. So it's better to copy it and save it somewhere in a text file or a system variable so that you can later use you can later use it. Good. So let's copy this key, for example, and we're going to use it here. Now, is it good practice for us to do it this way? Not really, because in your applications, you don't want to put the secret key for everybody to see. You usually just surround them and hide them in other variables, usually in system variables or in files named .env. But for now, we're going to use this sort of approach. Okay, so we say that the authorization is this. We have too many parentheses. Okay, this is the try. Okay, and now 1 second. Okay, I think this should work. Okay, great. Now we are going to say that after we make the request, we save that response into a variable named generated text or however you want, with the data from the result constant from the array of choices. It's the first element, and message.content. This will take the message from the API response. Then we just set response to generated text to this variable. Good. And now the catch part. If there is an error, we just say the response it's an error occurred while generating text, and also we can log it in the console. We can say error generating response. Here are too many R's. Okay, and we will send the variable error. Okay, great. After this call and this try catch, we are going to set loading to false, because we are going to say that, okay, the request has been made, and it is not awaiting a response anymore. Okay. Let's see what what happens here. Okay, anyway, let's keep building and we will see the error later. Okay, then after this, after we have made the logic for actually calling the API, we are going to return something. And what we return is a page, a web page, which I'm going to copy paste from somewhere, from which I already built, because that part is not, it's not really the important part. Okay. 1 second. Let's just make sure that everything is all right here. Okay. Good. And this is what we return. Okay, and why do we have so many errors? Well, because we didn't import the styling from this page. So we are going to import these components called safe area, view, text input, whatever, from the library React Native. Okay, and we have to make the styles. These styles is constant, which we are using here. So we made the styles, okay? The styles constant, which is a style sheet that we use create. Okay. And then here we define our components. So we define the container, which we represent here, styles.container. We define the header, which we use right here, header and header text. Okay. And now let's fix the errors. Okay, I have typed respawn. It's actually response. Okay. Let's see. Let's solve the other errors. So no, we don't mark this function as a sync. Okay, it's most probably an indentation error. So now it should be okay. Yeah. Great. Good. Now we can see that our okay, we cannot see right now. Axios, none of these files exist. But okay. Do we need to actually install it again? Okay, now, okay, this is weird. But let's start. Let's try it in another example. Okay. So we're going to use this here. Okay, let's try it in this example. Okay, good. Now here it worked. So this is our page. This is the AI text generator. Here we can type our prompt. We can say generate me a poem, for example. And when we hit generate, it will load for a bit because it makes the response, and the request response cycle, it takes a bit of time. And here we have our generated poem. And it also took our some credit from our balance. As I said, this is not free. It's behind the paywall. You will see it in the billing. Here you can see your balance. The minimal credit balance is $5 that you can add, but it's not that every request is not that expensive. It's like $0.08 or something. Every price you can see it on the pricing. You can see it on the API keys documentation. You can see the pricing for every prompt that you want. Okay, now that this is our AI text generator, let's take a look also at some translation and image generation, how it looks. Okay, so this is the text for image generation. We are not going to write it from scratch because I don't think we will have enough time, because Buddy also has to show you the Flutter part. So we also imported the needed components. We added the constant, okay, the constant that we need, the prompt, the image URL, and the loading. Here we are making a response. We are making a call to another endpoint. We are making a call to a V1 images generations. Here we made the call to images V1 to V1 chat completions. So it's a different endpoint that we can find in our where I showed you earlier. Okay, and here you can say that also we have the token. You can specify in the body. You specify the prompt, which is what we are inserting in the chat box. We are specifying how many images and the size of the image that it's generating us. Here we are also handling errors if something happens, and also styling it. We can also start this server for you to see how the image generation works. Okay. Also, how the translation looks is the same stuff, but we are going to use our another endpoint, our chat completions as the first time. And what we do different here is that in the content, we are not just sending the message that we put in the text box. We are not just sending the message that we put here. We are also saying, so translate the following text to language. We are choosing the language from here. Okay, so we translate this text to language Spanish, for example, French, German, etc., to our input, which the input should be what language we want it to be translated to. Okay. Yeah. So let's try the image generator. Okay. So describe the image you want to generate. I don't know, generate a mobile that has an app on it, for example, or multiple apps. And then when we hit generate images, it will take a bit of time. And we can see that it generated our image. Okay, not really the greatest, not the prettiest, but it did its job. And the translation, we want, for example, to translate to German. Yeah, so we translate from English to German. Let's say I like apples, for example. We translate it, and this is the return. And let's actually verify it. Okay, so German to English. I like apples. Okay, so it does its job pretty well. And this is from my part, from the React Native part. The layout a bit, it's we will talk about it a bit. So we have this tabs section where we have our index file. Okay, this is our homepage, and then we can make a folder which is called image generation. For example, this is our path URL. So for example, if I go here in image generation, I will go to the image generation link. But I can also use the buttons from here to navigate each app. But as you can see, the link changes based on what I have typed here, what the folder name has. And in that folder, we can make an index.typescript file to build it. Okay, so this was it from my part, from the React Native app. I want to invite Vlad now to share you the Flutter part.
Yeah, sure thing. Just a sec. So for my part, I will use the Gemini API for some Flutter examples. This is just a simple application to show the capabilities of the former AI APIs that are inside the Gemini large language model. So let's just say a user wants to see the text from an image. You have a colleague that show you his work and he's terrible at typing or writing on a paper, and you want to extract the text. And it extract the text, and you can trust me that I match it and it's very good. Or let's just say you want to see how a user is feeling. He's writing in his little journal, "My dear journal, today began in chaos and frustration." Why this is important is not just text generation, but it's complex reasoning, because sentiments inside the AI is a service indeed in itself, because sentiments are not so easily readable inside the text, because you can have, like in this example, multiple sentiments, and the AI needs to see what is the predominant one. So let's just say, "My dear journal," a user has something to say in his journal, and you can use a service that was the sentiment service before, and you can see how the user is feeling. You can have a summary, you can have the key themes. He is very frustrated, he is triggered. You have some positive influences as well, but the main thing that AI generated is that the overall sentiment is negative. An analysis like a psychologist. Or also, let's just say you have an idea for SDG impact for the current hackathon team. Let's just say you have an idea. I just write it here. How great can it be? This is complex reasoning and interference. This was also a service that was included in the Gemini API. And you can see, you can have your little analyst that can score your thing. Okay, this is very great, well and great. Let's just go from scratch. So the great thing about Gemini API for you guys is that it's free. So Gemini API pricing. You have a free tier that's very good for you, because you can implement in your hackathon without paying the $5 for ChatGPT. And you can have your rate limits, 15 requests per minute, 1 million tokens per minute, which is a very great deal, and also 1,500 requests per day. And you can use different types of models that are some are great, some are not so great. It really depends on your type of application. The thing about this approach that Google is using is that the data you will link to it will be used to improve its AI. So if you are working with ChatGPT and with an pay API key, it will not use your data to train its next models, but this will be used, but it's free. And also, if you need to hire up and scale up from the data limits, you can pay as you go. So you will have some pricing for in prompts. That depends on the token size that I said earlier. All right, so let's just say I want to use Gemini inside my application. I will use for Google Gemini. It's also text and prompt, but you will need to get the API key. Sorry, it's a Google AI Studio. You will log in on it because it's a Google account, and you can generate your API key for free. You need to generate your API key, you need to have a Google Cloud project. For this, you can also use the Gemini API language, and it will generate your API key. This is very important to keep in a safe space, because when you're generating, it will show you just one time. And if you're not noting it down, when you are all right with it, you cannot see it anymore. You cannot see the key anywhere, just the recent key for a specific amount of time. And we can now integrate it inside your apps. So let's just go back to our part. So as you saw earlier, I did 3 types of API implementation: SDG, OCR tool, and Mood Journal. One is optical character resolution that extracts text from images. One is an analyst that uses sentiment analysis to see how the user is feeling. And one is a complex interference that can work as an analyst. They are all using the same API. In this case, they are using the Gemini Flash 1.5, I think. So let's just see from scratch how we can implement one of them. Since Flutter is quite verbose and it will take a lot of time just to make the UI changes, I will just implement the AI part. As you can see here, we'll have a screen. This is the screen that we are working with. So we have a text box that you can enter a chat. We have an up bar that has the text. You have a button, and you will return the thing. As I said earlier, you have an idea, you copy it, you're getting, and I have some styling done for it to look nicer. But let's just concentrate on the fact that we have some data that the user puts and how it will go into Google and back. So as I said earlier, you have a screen that is a stateful widget, as you know from earlier workshops on Flutter. You need to enter your API key, which is not good, as Răzvan said, is not a great thing from a security standpoint, because you might need some environmental variables. This is being done by using .env files. So you'll have a special packages for using this, and you'll have some tutorials for this. For the sake of time saving, I will not use as well the .env variables. So let's just say you will have some API key that you get from the service. All right. So let's just copy and paste it here. As I said earlier, you have a text controller that takes the user generated content. You'll have analysis result, and also you will have as a state and a function that analyze your project impact. Before it checks that it is indeed a project description, so not send some empty text. And if it's true, and then we'll try to load to the Google OpenAI or Google AI Foundry thing. So first of all, you need to mention in this what is your model that you are trying to work with. So since I will not change the model, I will say father model. From this library that you need to use for integrating with the Gemini API, you have a package called Google Generative AI. There is a function that is called generative model. In this, you need to have the model and the API key. The model, as I said earlier, is not just your naming Gemini 1.5 and something. It needs to be very precise. How you can see what the actual name is, because if you don't put the actual name, it will break it. We'll have the documentation. We can search on Google the documentation for Gemini API, and you can see Gemini Flash 2.0 is the newest one, but it's quite unstable. Since it's experimental, you have this icon. You will have Gemini 1.5 Flash, which is a flagship model, and also Pro. But Pro has fewer limits for the free tier, so it will use Gemini 1.5 Flash. And you can see here below the name in the blue part that the actual name of the service. This is very important, as Razvan said earlier, to search for the documentation, to see how it works, to see what is capable of doing. You can have inputs, you can have text, you can have the token limit used, what images per prompt can generate, what is the limit for free or pay as you go, what is able and not able to do. So bidirectional streaming is not supported in this. Sorry about that. The specific streaming model. And also you might need to use the model to see how the endpoint is, where the endpoint is. So if you are going here in the documentation used for Gemini and you're working with 1.5 Flash, and you're going a little bit below, you will have the API references. So the endpoint that we're trying to get is generative language.googleapis.com v1 beta and the name of the model. As we discovered earlier, is the Gemini 1.5 Flash. So I will just copy from here. And let's work on it. So the model is Gemini 1.5 Flash. And since we put the API key above in a constant, I will use that specific constant. All right. So since this is a prompt-based API, I thought about earlier that I will need to tell the API, okay, I will have your project description. You will need to assess the potential impact on the sustainable development goals of the United Nations. And please tell me the impact analysis. And I put here some formatting things for me to be, for me to work on the presentation part. So I will have the numbers first. The impact analysis is 1 or 5, as you can see earlier, and it's separated. All right, so it will require to the AI to analyze this project that was put in the controller text. And now, all right, so this is the prompt. And now we just need to finalize the try catch thing. So first of all, we will need to use, as Razvan used, an await function. So let's just say final await, final response equal to await model dot generate content, yes, where the content is the content of the prompt. All right, text prompt, as I said earlier, prompt, yes. All right, good. Okay, so we will need to think about what happens if the response text is null or not, or most, or to say the least, if the response is getting back to us or not. So let's just say if the response is getting back to us, so this means that it's not null. Let's just see what happens. So I will open some brackets. I will need to modify the set state. So I will need to modify the screen to introduce the new impacts. I will do the set state function that catches the analysis result of the prompt. And also it will generate the impacts. This is being used by parsing the thing, parse the impacts, a function that I did previously, because I just used some regular expression. This is a very important concept that you will use in your programming career. Questions that you can use to split things. As I did earlier, I have a special formatting, and I use some formatting regular expression to split it. So let's just turn back. right. Okay, but what happens if else? All right, I will just modify and say that I don't have some text. Let's just, what is happening here? I forgot to, yes. Okay. Așa, and let's just copy paste here and just modify a little bit since it's not changing a lot. So I will put it in and say error, no response from the model. So you can see the error in the logging thing, and the impacts are not, so just an empty thing. All right, but you will need also, because it's a try, to have a catch for errors. So maybe there are errors in your code for some reason. You didn't do a great job parsing them, or something, the user breaks things up. So let's just copy what we did earlier and see. Here you won't have a result because it is an error, and the text even didn't reach the servers of AI. So let's just say you have an error, and you will put the error that is generated by the code. E.toString is a function, and the impacts are 0 as well because there's an error. Yes. All right. And finally, if it's all okay, you can tell the user, the server, that you will send him some data. All right. I see here that I have a little problem. Oh, my bad. I will look into that a bit. And also, when you're giving the AI a prompt and will return you with a big text, you need to pretty the format. So I will use some regular expression to split the things, to look at it. So you have this format that I use the SDG for. Firstly, as I said earlier, this is the format, so I will split it. This is just some trim and split things, but it's very important for you to understand the regular expression things. And also I will use some sorting to sort the A from the most to the least. And also here you have a widget build that you are very accustomed to by now. When you have an app bar, you have some body that you have the input decoration and a text field, a size box, and the results are put in a list view. So let's just fix this. All right. It's all right. And let's try to run it again. I will use Chrome since I don't have an Android emulator on my PC right now, but it's the thing that works with Flutter because it can work on web, it can work on Windows. As you see the options on Edge. I don't use Edge, but I will use Chrome. And it takes a while though. All right, so let's go back to our impact analysis. Analyzer, our special agent, put our idea. And here we go, right? But also I said earlier that you can have some OCR tool. So let's just take a look into this. For the OCR tool, basically you will use some libraries for the HTTP request that we did earlier, also as well for the endpoint, the URL parts. You will use an image picker, which is a standard library from Flutter that lets you pick images from your device. And also, please don't do this in production code using variables. So basically, you will use this get image to use from the pick file that you used earlier, imported earlier. Yes, and the important things about images when you're working with images and user sending images is the fact that you need to understand that images are sent by bytes. So each images is composed of pixels, and you have bytes, and this will be transformed by bytes. And then also the bytes that you set that are transforming your images. So we will have a big matrix of just 1 to 2, 5, from 0 to 255, since this is 8 bytes. You will have to transpose in some way, so you don't send just a big matrix. And this is being done by using a base 64 converter, which is just a way to encode and decode things, which is very popular. All right, so you will have your image, you will send it into bytes, and then you need to be sure that your API key is set and the image is not null, so you don't send an empty response. And also from the bytes, you are encoding the big matrix with a base 64 that it will give a long string. Let's just use some things to show you how the base 64 is looking. So you'll have some string for this. And you will send it to the Gemini API, and you'll say, okay, I have a content that is base 64 image. I'm telling you to extract the text from an image and output only the text image without any additional formatting or explanation. So it doesn't give you some crap thinking about it. Without any specific styling, any prefix or something. I just want the text. So I will use the endpoint that is specifically mentioned in the documentation, and I will send the headers from the endpoint. And if I receive the 200 code, which is okay, I will get the data, I will decode it, and I will put the text in the UI. As you see earlier, we will select image. If this is a test image, it will be sent into basis and sent back, and I get it. Still using the same API, Gemini 1.5 Flash. So also this service is included here. And also for the journal part, just a quick overview. As you see earlier, you have sorry, not this. You will have also text box with some button that will generate your data. This being more complex from the perspective that I can get more data, I put the more results for analysis, for sentiment, for key themes to have a really great overview. And this is similar being done because you will have a prompt. You can use a generative model from the library, or you can use an endpoint that as implemented earlier with the way HTTP post, or you can use the library. Still, Gemini 1.5 Flash with the API key, and you can see that I use him a prompt. I said, please give me in a JSON format. I need this from this journal text that is being sent. And the basic thing is that you will have some decode of the JSON that is being sent back to you, and you will need to split the things with the regular expressions. And also, if you're getting things, you need to update the data from the sentiment result, from the summary. We need to put some error sketching. And also, because it's an entry, I can use, in this example particularly, let's just see, I need more. It's just potassium, and today I feel great. I can have multiple entries. This is a collection of things. Yes, so then you can see. All right. So this is a collection of things. This is just the ability to scroll and the component of UI. All right. So the most important thing is that since working with the generative models, you can use, as I said earlier, more things inside the same models. And it's you can see how the tokens are working, like using this prompt in the AI Studio. Let's just put to generate something. Generate a Flutter design clone of Twitter. So you have this string, as I said earlier. If you run it, the token will update. So it uses 8 for the original prompt. It will speed you some things. Let's say. Give you some data from the code. And after completion, the token count will be updated to show you how many tokens are used for content generation. So you can see and get a feeling of how can you work within the token. So as I said earlier, you already use 4,020 tokens of the 1 million that you have in the free tier. Yes, here. So already you use 4 million of the 1 million tokens per minute on the free tier. So it's not bad. It's a very great deal for the free tier. And also Gemini is very common since Google is pumping so many money into it nowadays. And you can have so many implementation. You can also have, if you are very curious, you can use Gemini API and Dart in Flutter, and they have a very great course with a lot of things and more complex stuff than I show you. And yes, so this is the Gemini API implementation. And also don't be stuck in just this or Gemini or OpenAI, because the internet is full of APIs. You have at the quick search, you can see more things on the GitHub that you can see free AI APIs that you can use inside your application. You just need to be very you just need to be very aware that you need to be securing your data. And also Rapid API is a very popular collection of APIs that you can use within their services, and they have put all AI APIs available for the users. So you have convert text to audio quickly, that is not being done by the Google API or Gemini API, or spam filter that you might not have the prompt to do it. Also, there are still available the free AI tools that I presented in the last webinar, like advanced translation, cloud vision, speak to text, and also a very great and new API that you can use is NotebookLM, that you can just send her data and it will provide you an audio overview like a podcast with 2 persons, and it's great. And also you have IBM, Microsoft, and so on and so forth. So this was the demo part. Yeah, we'll just have some quick.
Okay, just a bit, Vlad.
Yeah, sure thing.
Let me just fix my error. Like if other people encounter the error that I have, let me just tell them how to fix it. So basically, my intuition was right. I didn't have Axios installed in this VS Code in this module. So what I did was just open a terminal and npm install Axios after I have stopped my server. And then guess what? After I started again, it works. So this error now after a refresh, it is gone. So this is, if you guys encounter this call stack Axios error, it means most probably that you don't have it installed, and make sure that you install it in the right folder with the npm install Axios. Great.
All right, so let's just use some use cases. So since the topic of the hackathon is the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN, we try to think about some very popular implementation of AI API that helps you with the goals that you can see here in the bottom left corner. So this is a very popular company It's called Pet AI, and it uses artificial intelligence to tackle one of the biggest challenges in pathology. Pathology is the field that diagnoses cancer. So pathologists face increasing workloads and challenges in diagnosing cancer with precision because it evolves very quickly, and you have a very traditional way of visual inspection that can be subjective, time-consuming, and prone to variability between pathologists. So one says thing, one says another, and you don't have like an objective response. So you have delays in diagnosis. You can have the not so nice impacts on treatment of patients and so on and so forth. So this company uses AI APIs to analyze digital pathology images. So they assist the pathologist to identify and quantify critical feature of cancer that can be shown in a radiography. The results are promising because Pet AI tools have been shown to significantly improve the accuracy and speed of cancer diagnosis by reducing error and enhancing efficiency, also using AI APIs for a lot of things. These tools not only help pathologists, but also ensure the patients that can receive timely and more reliable diagnosis. So you can see that the AI APIs are helping with goal 9, goal 3, and goal 17. And also very popular nowadays is Duolingo, very popular on TikTok also. So Duolingo is a widely used language learning platform. And the nice thing about Duolingo is that it has effectively leveraged artificial intelligence to address key challenges in language education, because language learning is often challenging and requires personal feedback. And traditional language learning methods don't always cater to individual learning styles or paces. And just having your online course doesn't fit everyone. So this mismatch can lead to frustration, disengagement, and lower completion rates because you won't feel that it's very good for you. So Duolingo integrates AI APIs into multiple aspects of this platform to overcome these hurdles. You have AI APIs for natural language processing, so what is being typed by the user, to analyze user responses and personalize feedback for their language learning. You also employ AI for chatbots, as you said earlier, like interactions, for allowing users to practice conversation in a realistic, yet stress-like environment. You have like a little character that you can talk with it. And also you can talk with a character in a call, and is using AI APIs for text-to-speech and speech-to-text because that person doesn't exist in real life. So the AI does the difficulty of lessons dynamically, and you are making sure that learners are already challenged at the right level without being overwhelmed or being left behind. Yes, so yeah, and as you know, Duolingo is very popular and made the learning language experience available, engaging, and effective for millions of users. You have quality of education goal met. You have reduced inequalities because it's a free app with some pricing tier, but mostly it's a free app and you can use for kids in Africa or undeveloped communities. And also you have partnership for the goals because you can use Duolingo within other applications because they also have API. So this was our presentation for APIs. I think it took longer than expected, but I know it's a lot. The field is very quickly advancing. 9 months ago, when we did the first hackathon, we used other methods and tools, and this right now is just different. But I think it's evolving in a great way because nowadays you can just pop a model and just work with it, rather than showing a lot of APIs and configuring.
Yes, so we hope you guys enjoyed this presentation and that it was useful for you, and you're going to use some kind of AI APIs in your mobile app, which will further enhance your experience, not only with programming or developing apps, but also seeing something new and using something new.
Yeah, and also this is a great skill for the future because as we all see and do, we all use AI every day. So including AI in our application without building it from scratch is very important for your development. So if you have any questions.
Yes, actually, I had a question. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I found the part with the payment and billing a bit confusing, and the token currency. If you could maybe explain a bit, like, whose money is that? Is that my money? Where does it go? Like, how does it actually work?
Okay. Can I explain it, Vlad?
Yeah, sure thing.
Okay, sure. So on OpenAI, you if you saw you have some pricing, right? You have some pricing on the on that tab. Basically, you have to use your own money for it to work, and you will see, like for example, you balance, you upload the balance of $5, let's say. Then you will have $5 available for each call of your API. And that's your money, as you said, that you are using. But basically, you are paying for a better service in theory. Or you can use Vlad's Gemini's free service.
Okay, so the OpenAI API requires my money, but the Gemini AI doesn't.
Yes,
Yeah.
because OpenAI is not having some free services anymore. They used to have in a while ago. They don't have a free tier to just experiment with it, so they're just greedy and collect all of your money. Because Gemini is not so well popular in the fact that OpenAI has the market, is the market leader right now. They have a free tier to basically just market themselves, and you can use their free services within your application because they see this usage of their APIs as free for marketing purposes, let's just say. And also, the thing that I mentioned is that it's also free, but you need to remember that in life, when something is free, you are the product. Because, as I said, Gemini is free for a tier and using something, but it will use your data and what you put there and what you generate to better train the algorithm forwards.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
you should use whatever model you find more fit for your use case.
For a
And
hackathon and
yeah.
general, because I went to hackathons before, for a hackathon is great to use just Gemini or something that is free and just to make a concept and proof of concept for it and just work with better models and better things later. So I advise for use for Gemini. It's not that seamless integration as OpenAI because yeah, it's free, but and might get you some not so nice answers, but it's free. It has a nice tier of things that you can do, so it's not just limit yourself in just two, three requests. And yes, I think it's a better view. But as I said, OpenAI is a market leader, and we didn't do justice if we don't present it.
Okay.
And
Thank you
also,
so
I
much.
think you asked about how tokens are processed and how money are going.
Yeah, like about the balance, because you mentioned there was a money balance and
Yeah, so in OpenAI, let's just say, for example, that Razvan said you have $5. Yeah, you have a wall of text, a big text. As I said earlier in the presentation, this text is not just sent as a string and just go. It will be split in parts, like a loaf of meat that you split in parts for usage, or a loaf of bread, or whatever. Each loaf of bread requires some money to be seen to be processed by OpenAI. This is not for each token, but for each million of token, because a token is so small, it doesn't require too much. For each million of token, you require some money to be processed by OpenAI, let's just say. So for let's say a book that has hundreds of pages, you'll have 100 of pages or times how many tokens are generated for each page, like 500 or 800. And this is the token part that says, okay, I have X million number of tokens. I need to process them with OpenAI. So this means that I have X million number of tokens times the pricing part of them.
Okay, thank you. That was a really good answer and clarified my question. Thank you.
Sure thing. If you have any
Glad
other
to help.
questions.
And also, just to show you here, again, you can see the prices. As Vlad said, each price of the model, it's price per 1 million tokens, it says here. And also the image generation, for example, it says price per image. So that's how much you pay from your balance to generate an image. And
yeah, this is a very great example also, if you can go back, because you can see pretty clearly, I want to generate an image from the text that user saw. This will cost me 4 cents or 8 cents or whatever pricing is there.
exactly. And you will see your updated balance after a minute or so. After you make the API call, you will see it here. And some sense, it's not really that much. It doesn't tax you that much, let's say.
Yeah, the nice thing about that is that is not using your data for nefarious purposes because it's not free. But also, if in a hackathon, you're not just dealing with some sensitive data or something like that. You need to make a proof of concept of minimal valuable product, an MVP. So for an MVP, you can just be scrappy and use whatever is free available. I know this concept of tokens is very new for some of you guys, and it's very important to really understand it. So if you have any other questions, you can also reach out to us after the presentation, also when you're working or something. Because this is the currency of AI in the future. Any other questions?
From me, no, thank you.
Okay, well, I guess we can wrap it up.
Yeah.
So thank you.
No.
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 You have a question?
No, I not have.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. So thank you guys so much for joining and for taking part in this webinar. I hope it was useful, and again, you will use it, some of these concepts we presented here in your mobile apps. And the best of luck to you.
Best of luck. Have a great day. And a great
Bye.
weekend.
Have a great day.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.